Online dating gone wrong. So to start, I'm a transgender woman. I'm single and I make my status as trans very clear on all my dating profiles, except for Plenty of Fish, because they consider that to be talking about sex and they'll straight up ban you. So I state that instead, I'm a huge proponent of trans rights. So this guy messages me. He lives about an hour away, kinda cute in a mildly creepy sort of way, like something seems a little off about him, but people can't help how they look, so I give him a chance just like I would want. I discover he's a smoker, but he says he's trying hard to quit and only does when he's really stressed out or upset. We have a nice conversation and finally he asks for my number, and without thinking about it, I give him the number but tell him I'm getting ready for my evening classes, so I'll be slow to respond. A few minutes go by and I get, "Hi, it's username from POF." Now, I send standard quick messages. "Hi, it's Ali." So just to be clear, my profile might be a little vague. I'm a transgender woman. I don't know if that's everyone's cup of tea. So if you're not interested, I completely understand. About 20% of the time, the guy isn't interested and gets rude and needs to be blocked or something like that. And the other 80% is split between immediate inappropriate questions and dick pics, casual acceptance, or dead silence. But like I said, I was getting ready to go to class, so I hadn't sent the message yet. A few minutes go by and I'm about to text him, my standard, when I get another text. "Who the fuck is full dead name? Why is he paying your cell phone bill? Where did you even get that name? Answer the question. Who is he?" I'm honestly stunned at this point, and I realize he must have paid one of those shady websites that offer personal info for a fee. Well, if you must know, I'm transgender, and that used to be my name. I was about to tell you that when you pulled that stunt. Please do us both a favor and lose my number. That's incredibly invasive, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. Do you still live at my address at the time in my hometown? I'm coming to see you and we're going to talk about this in person. Me lying. No, I moved a few months ago and I'm getting ready to head out like I said. You need to leave me alone. Don't contact me again. Since you have something to hide, I'm going to do a full background check on you. You lied to me and I don't appreciate that. I'm sending screen caps of this conversation, your POF profile, and your photos to my two best friends who work in law enforcement in your town, and my ex-boyfriend, who I'm still on good terms with, who works for the local sheriff's office. Don't text me again. I don't hear anything else from him for a few weeks. I made sure my doors and windows were locked, and the aforementioned friends and exes would check up on me from time to time. Eventually, it just became one of those weird things that make you laugh uneasily. Then, one day, I saw him at the local grocery store. Same dark hair, thick glasses frames, and just creepy guy, staring at me, watching me as I shopped. I texted my ex about it, and as an upswing on things, my ex and I got back together in a casual sort of way, and he stayed the night a few times, a month on and off. One night there I was alone though. I kept getting this weird feeling and smelling smoke. I lived in a little apartment complex. There were 3 separate apartments that shared walls, but no plumbing or air ducts. I don't smoke, and I'm very sensitive to the smell thanks to asthma. The apartment had a wall unit AC, so I turned it off since it was apparently pulling air in from the neighbor's guest, who might have been chain smoking, I thought. I had an ASL video due the next morning, so I was up all night practicing and recording the video, citing the same story over and over again until it was almost a dance rather than narration. A couple times I had to restart the video because my cat was going nuts. At around 7 a.m., I had the video finished and sent it and was ready for bed, so I double-checked all the doors and windows were locked, set an alarm, and went to sleep. I woke up and got ready for school, was running a little bit late, and had to hurry out the door, but I noticed something weird, but didn't have time to stop and register it. Classes went smoothly. I got an A on my ASL video and stopped for groceries on my way home from class. As I got home, I saw what had been bugging me. Each apartment had a small garden on each side of the porch. Mine was nothing but gravel and pavers the previous tenant had put in, but it was tidy, except for a pile of cigarette butts that looked like someone had dumped their car ashtray in my garden. There was no other trash, just that pile right in front of my bedroom window. I don't think about it at first and just get a broom and dustpan and sweep it up. As I'm doing it, my neighbor, an old man, comes out and asks if my boyfriend ever got a hold of me. I ask him what he means. He tells me there was a young man waiting for me on my front porch off and on for a few hours last night. They'd seen the guy around before and thought he was my boyfriend. I asked what he looked like. Dark hair, thick glasses, chain smoking. I text to off and on again X. Cops take statements and I give them the screenshots. I move out of state a few weeks later for unrelated reasons and have legally changed my name since with closed records. I don't give guys my number anymore. Ladies and my fellow queer family, using a texting app until you get to know someone, because for like $5, creeps can get everything from your number. Hotels are pretty safe to hook up in, right? Sorry I'm awful at this. I'm bored at home for the holidays and reading the sub made me want to share this encounter that happened to me recently. I'm a young 20s gay man with a high sex drive as I frequent Grindr, Scruff, etc., looking for opportunities to, get fucked in the ass. I have a thing for older men too. I don't really care how old you are as you don't look like my grandpa. I live in a big city, but even so, Grindr and Scruff can be pretty dry some days. A lot of the guys I'm into aren't attracted to me because I'm a lot younger. I'm also not white or muscly, so I don't get an abundance of attention on those apps in general. So on those dry days, the wise thing to do would be to nut quietly by myself and go to sleep peacefully, but like any other 20-something man, sometimes my second head takes over and decides that sex tonight is a life necessity. I don't always meet someone in public first, but I'm pretty good at hooking up safe. I have a checklist of things that I will send one of my best friends every time I'm meeting someone new. Screenshots of their online profile, all face pictures they gave me, a first name, their phone number if I have it, social media profiles if I have it, where we're meeting, etc. I text them regular updates when I'm on the way over, and I've made it over, and whether or not the guy is the guy in the pictures, if we ever move locations, I text them an exact address and phone number immediately. Once it looks like the dirty is about to start, I'll let them know, and then, I'm safe and about to get banged. One thing to note, if a guy offers me a drink while I'm with them, I make sure it's a sealed can or bottle. A couple months ago, I figured I'd start proactively casting a wider net for those nights that the apps are dry. I joined this site online specifically catered to the gay, older, younger crowd. Eventually, I get a message from this guy. He sends me a kind of low-res picture of himself in oversized glasses and a sweater and button-down combo. I read his profile and he's 71, and I can't quite tell if I'm attracted to him from the first photo. I message back asking for a second, and good. He sends another one without fuss, again with a bit low res, but without the glasses, and I think, yeah, okay, maybe. His profile says something about how he's from the UK, how he's quite tall, so I figured British accent tall daddy. It'll be novel at least. Reading further on, he prattles on about how he likes meeting people who are strong-willed and breaking them down to be completely submissive to him. Sounds hot. We exchange phone numbers and text on WhatsApp a bit. He seems a bit arrogant. He starts telling me people often say he looks like a movie star or something. Apparently, he chooses poor pictures, so I can't see that. And is telling me how he can tell the way that I talk that I'm smart by the way I text or something. I've heard it all before, but I have a high tolerance for this brand of old man bullshit posturing at this point. He lets me know a date he'll be coming in and staying in a hotel downtown a month later. I figured, hey, I'd probably forget about him by then and never message him again. And then a month rolls by, and it's another particularly dry night on the apps. I'm having a need sex now night, and I remember that guy I was talking to from that site. I hit him up on WhatsApp. Sure enough, he's in town and tells me where he's staying. I tell him I'll be there in an hour. You disease-free? He takes a while to respond. Eventually, he says he's squeaky clean. We'll talk about it when you get here. I'm like, okay, sounds cool. Text one of my friends, the usual. I'm a little bit more nervous for this one, just because he seems a little odd. And I kind of trust the apps a bit more weirdly. It's much easier to tell if someone is a legit person when they live in the same area as you. I figured it's a hotel. You can't be planning anything too awful for me. I showed up to the hotel where he's standing in the lobby, and lo and behold, he looks exactly like his pictures, just much less happy and a bit more droopy. His shoulders hunch almost halfway up his neck. His torso is bent back on his waist a bit too much. He almost looks like he's imitating a confident cartoon character, but he is quite tall. He has a foot on me. I say hi. 2 words to describe the way he came across: preoccupied and calculating. His eyes seemed to shift everywhere constantly, and when they landed on mine, they were freakishly piercing. I don't remember if he said hi back, but the first thing he starts talking about is how that family over to the right is hiding some great unhappiness and will never be happy with themselves. I asked, why do you say that? He says it's because they're giving so much attention to the kid, they aren't talking to each other. I look over, looks like a regular sister, little brother, and mom tired for the day of vacationing, waiting for their dad to finish up sorting something out at reception. By the way, he has a very strong American accent. Bummer. We walk to the elevators. The second thing he says to me is that I breathe from my lungs when I sleep and don't let my breath drop into my belly. I have some classical training as a performer, and I have a decent understanding of basic functions like that. Eyes locked on me, a brief pause, only a subtle change in tone. You want to know how I know that? I look the way your lower jaw rests now. It kind of has this unsightly protrusion from your bottom of the skull where it should be resting. That probably happens overnight when you start breathing from your chest, which makes that fat tongue of yours pressed up against the bottom teeth and deforms it. No, I'm pretty sure I breathe low when I sleep. Okay, no need to get defensive. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I've never experienced this level of agitation from anyone within the first 2 minutes of meeting them, and I've been in emotionally manipulative relationships before, so the feeling was familiar and weirdly intense for a first meeting. My brain kind of goes on an autopilot polite hookup mode, and I figured maybe it'll be okay once we stop talking. He continues posturing as we ride up the elevator. He loves psychology and predicting how humans act apparently. We get off on his floor and approach his room. I quickly fire off the suite number. He's a little odd in a text to my friend. As he taps his key card, he glances at me over his shoulder. You don't need to text someone my room number, you know? Okay, well, I just did. I'm a trustworthy person. You have to trust me. Okay, well, I just deal with everyone I meet. The room is fairly normal, nothing too weird. His stuff is piled in a corner a bit haphazardly. Bed is made, lights are all on. Normal hotel room. I see an open wine bottle on the desk. A glass of Coke and a glass of white wine are pre-poured. I take off my jacket and sit on the edge of the bed. He sits on the desk chair, starts quizzing me. Do you do this a lot? You asked if I was disease-free. What are you expecting to happen here? Because I'm a squeaky clean guy. I don't have sex with people unless I'm in a relationship with them. The reason I ask is people do this a lot tend to be quite dirty and slutty, and eventually it catches up to them. Listen, I can tell you're a smart guy. I can tell you're a strong-willed person. What I really like is when a strong-willed person like you becomes completely submissive to me. I like breaking them. At this point, I realize he's not going to stop fucking talking, and it feels like it might be a good idea to leave before having my pants down around him, but I feel frozen, on the verge of tears even. He's making me feel small, like a child. I see him smile a little. He likes it. I am sufficiently creeped out. Look, I really don't think we're a match here, so I'm going to go. Okay, you're feeling unsafe. No, I'm not. I just don't think we are on the same page. Let me know what I can do to make you feel safe. How about you have a drink? No thanks. Diet Coke or wine? I look at the pre-poured drinks on the desk. I get a gut feeling that I should not drink them. I stand up. No, really, fine, thank you. I quickly get my jacket on and jump into a polite, nice to meet you and take care bye on my way out the door. He gives me wrong directions to get to the subway from the hotel. Tells me smart people take that route, stupid people take the long way. I say thanks and leave. I text my friend, holy hell, I'm safe, and I take my normal-ass subway route home. Thank you very much. I pledge to stop letting my dick think for me. Young Harrison Ford. Let's not meet again. Don't drive straight home. This story happened to me about 2 years ago when I was 19, and my foster sister Kira was 16. For the sake of this story, it's important to know that I was a female presenting and still hadn't come out as trans yet, nor was I presenting myself in an overly masculine style at the time. It was the summer before I was going to college, and I mostly lived with my mom and Kira except for every other weekend, where I'd be staying with Dad. Now, summers where I am can get really hot and humid, so we had a habit of waiting to walk the dogs until 6 or 7 p.m., because that's when it'd be cooler but still light outside. On this particular evening, Mom wasn't going to be home until late, though I don't remember the exact reason why. Bible studies, youth group classes, and whatever. It was something like that. So it was up to me and Kira to walk the dogs by ourselves, unless we wanted our younger dog Samson to throw tantrums due to pent-up energy. Even though we lived in the countryside and could have walked him down on our street, Kira and I decided to drive out 20 minutes to a park instead. Why? I don't remember. It could have been anything from being bored walking our roads to not wanting to have to deal with the blind curves and hills, whatever the reason. At around 7:30 p.m., Kira and I harnessed our 2 dogs, packed them in the car, and drove to the park. Let me quickly explain the layout of the park so that it's easier to understand why we got nervous halfway on our walk. This park isn't very big, but it's popular because of its loop. The entire park was surrounded by a mile-long looping road with its attractions like playgrounds, ponds, and small country hall spaced about on the inner side of the loop. The outer side is just grass, trees, and one playground at its end. Thus, it's common and expected to pass people walking the loop at least 2 times if you're walking in opposite directions, but not if you're walking in the same direction, obviously. Any cars on this road could only drive in one direction because it's a one-way road. At first, everything about this walk was normal. I parked the car, we clipped our dogs to leashes, and we started on the loop. Every so often, we stopped so we could take pictures of our good boys, particularly of Kira trying to wrangle Samson, who pulls like his life depends on it and weaves around because he wants to smell everything. It was while I was taking one of those pictures that the first encounter happened. A man, who looked to be in his 40s, walked past us, walking the same direction we were in, up towards the playground on the other side of the loop. He smiled at Kira, nodded and said hello, or cute dogs, or something like that, and kept walking. I honestly didn't think anything of it. We were at a park at a day of time where it's common to walk around due to the cooler temperature, and people where I am are generally friendly. Smiling and saying hi is pretty normal, no matter who says it. We smiled back, maybe said hi or thanks depending on what he said, and that was that, or so we thought. The man passed us again only 10 minutes later, directly across from where we'd seen him previously. Just like he did before, he smiled and said hi. This time, Kira and I looked at each other once he was ahead of us and shared, well, that was weird, expressions. Just 10 minutes earlier, he walked past us towards the playground, and subsequently broke off from the loop, and he'd been walking in the same direction as us. This time, though, he cut in front of us, and he did it in a way where we had to stop to avoid running into him. Hell, he nearly touched Kira with how close he was walking. That was already weird in itself. The other weird part was him cutting past us in the opposite direction. The only way he could have done that was if he cut across the inside of the loop, since it would have been close to impossible to pass us at a certain point from the other direction if he decided to walk the opposite way of the loop than us. It came off almost like he wanted to walk by us again, but just like before, Kira and I brushed his weirdness off. The guy could have been enjoying a rambling stroll and doing his own thing for all we knew. Besides, we had 2 reasonably sized dogs with us. Who'd mess with us? Not even 5 minutes later, the same guy passed us again, once again cutting so close past us that he nearly brushed shoulders with Kira. Again, he smiled and said hi before walking off. This was officially the moment I decided we needed to leave. Sure, it's normal to pass a person at least 2 times walking this loop if you're going in opposite directions, but doing so takes a while. You have to at least get to the parallel spot on the loop from where your paths first intersected to see each other again. Both the times between running into the guy and the location we passed each other didn't match up in a way that didn't look suspicious. Plus, I wasn't really a fan of how he cut across us. The first time he passed us like a normal person, walking faster than us would, albeit a little close. The second time he cut in front of us. So yeah, I told Kira to hustle so we can get to our car and get out instead of doing a second loop again. And that's what we did. When we were almost to our car, we noticed the car creeping along behind us. We pulled to the side and stopped to let it pass, but for a second, it stopped too. We figured he was getting ready to park, so we started walking again. The car started creeping along behind us as soon as we did, so we stopped again, and the car stopped with us. This was when Kira got nervous. We hadn't seen the middle-aged guy since the third cutoff, so we figured I had overthought the whole thing. But here we are, with this tinted windowed car acting weird as hell. Was it the same guy back with his car? A different guy? We couldn't tell. Before anything could happen, another car idled up to the one next to us, and whoever it was sped up to the expected 5 mph. We got to our car pretty fast after that, and practically picked up the dogs and get them inside of it. We got in and got out of there. My mistake, however, was neglecting my rear view mirror, and well-advised rule not to drive straight home if you're worried a stranger's taken too much interest in you. I was anxious, dumb, and primarily concerned with getting home where we could be safe. Because home is safe, right? Nothing bad is supposed to happen to you there, right? My naive sense of security. I think we got home at around 8 something. The sun had finally disappeared behind the horizon, but it wasn't fully dark yet. Just that dusty purple color the sky gets before it finally accepts that it's nighttime. Mom wasn't home yet, so we got the dogs some water, locked the doors, ate a late dinner, and chilled in the living room, talking about things that didn't really matter. It was almost 9:30 when the scariest part of this whole ordeal happened. There, Kira and I were, sitting on different couches, talking about something or another, when we noticed the ceiling briefly light up over where Kira was sitting. An important note here is that Kira was sitting on a small couch with her back to a window that faces the front of the house, while I was on a couch on the opposite wall where I could see a sofa of the front porch. Likewise, right next to Kira was our front door, which has 3 small rectangular windows on it. Due to our long, slightly curvy driveway, it's common to see headlights stream through that window, light up the ceiling, fade, that intensity. It means someone just come home. So when the ceiling above Kira lit up, we thought nothing of it, assuming Mom was finally coming back from whatever she went to that night, and we didn't take any notice of the light skipping the final arc of someone pulling up all the way to the driveway either. We also didn't pay any mind to how long it was taking Mom to come inside. Mom has a habit of pulling in there, checking her phone for God knows how long before actually coming inside. After a couple minutes, I noticed a small motion sensor light Mom set up on a table on the porch light up. Again, I could only see a sliver of space between my position and the curtains. Basically, I could see a smidge of the table and the rails bordering our porch, but it's not stairs or anything approaching the door, depending on how they approached it. I wasn't paying much attention either, because I assumed it was Mom. Right after the lights went off, we both heard the storm door open, but we didn't hear anyone pressing the code keys of our door or jiggling the door handles like Mom usually does right away. The moment the storm door creaked open, our 2 dogs jumped up and ran to the door, barking like mad. Samson, our good goofball son, who is incapable of hurting a fly but a big dog, jumps up on his hind legs and scrabbles to find purchase on one of the small windows in a desperate attempt to see who's outside. Immediately, the storm door slams shut, and we heard heavy footsteps on the cement of our porch. Calvin starts going nuts and jumps up on Kira's couch, standing on its back instead of the cushions to look out the window. Samson ran out of the door and went on the doggy door that leads to the back porch, which has a ramp going down in a fenced-off portion of our yard. I couldn't move. I never understood really what it meant when people described their limbs turning to lead until that moment. I felt like I didn't have limbs, really. Like moving, it wasn't even an option. If I moved, I might glimpse something or someone through the windows. The person could see me running through the house freaking out and decided to come after us after all. So I sat there, my mind steadily going blank as my heart sped up and limbs refused to move. In the game of fight, flight, or freeze, I am the freezer. Kira, on the other hand, is a fighter. She spins around and looks out the window, but can't see anything because besides the motion light on the porch, it is too dark. So naturally, she gets up, grabs a stray dog toy, which just so happens to be a tug-of-war rope with a ball on the end, and opens the door. I tell her calmly to shut the door and stay inside. She ignored me and stepped out onto the porch. She comes back inside after not seeing anything, but to my utter disbelievement, she disappears to the kitchen, comes back with a knife, and goes outside again. This time, she's gone for a handful of seconds before running back inside and slamming the door shut. Breathless, she tells me she went out a bit into the yard and saw the outline of a man by the rundown dog kennel we don't use anymore. When she saw him and froze, he moved. This time she listened to me when I told her to lock those doors. I managed to call Mom despite my head being empty and my limbs being lead, and she convinced me to get up, make sure all the doors are locked, including the basement, and making sure the dogs were all inside. After Mom got home and looked around, finding nothing, we called a non-emergency number for the police, not wanting to bother them in case we were overreacting. 2 police came by and walked around our yard and found nothing. We got the sense they didn't really believe us, but instead saw us as 2 overexcited girls with exaggerated imaginations. Still, they humored us and told us, after we told them about the park, that if we think anyone might be following us, or if someone's acting a little too creepy, not to drive straight home, and to check if anyone's following us. Then they left. To this day, I'm pretty sure the only person who believes someone with malicious intent came to her home in hopes of finding 2 teenage girls is Kira and myself. Though whether or not whoever it was the guy is from the park, we're not sure, but it's too coincidental, that the day we have multiple encounters with this guy who goes out of his way to get close to us, and then a car inches behind us, and we have an almost intruder encounter. Plus, there's just way too many details that don't add up to us. We both saw headlights, that motion detector on the porch turned on, the storm door thing, and it stayed open until Samson jumped up to look at the door's window. Like all that kind of stuff. We heard footsteps, Kira saw someone, and the doors don't even run up to the door like that and bark their heads off if no one's there. I don't know if whoever was at our house was the same guy that ran into us at the park. If it was, I don't know if the reason he cut in front of us as close as he did was to test how our dogs would react to them. And them not caring at all, or like the first time, wagging their tails convinced that he was not a threat. I don't know if he was that car that inched behind us and stopped when we stopped. I don't know what would have happened if Calvin didn't have a scary manic bark, or if Samson wasn't tall enough to look out the high windows on the door. I don't know much of anything. What I do know is this: if you're out and about, minding your own business, and a stranger is taking a lot of notice of you, following you, frequently running into you, or whatever, trust your gut. Don't drive or walk straight home. Meander. Get to a public space. Or just take your frickin' time. Pay attention to your surroundings, friends. You never know who is watching you.